Okay, I'm Christina, and my course is Business Communication 331, and it's called Corporate and Managerial Communication. So I think before we start, I just want to give you an idea of what the course is, because it really impacts how I teach the course. So you can see, I'll just kind of do a couple of things on the left as I talk about it. On the left, you'll see the welcome start here. We're going to, although I noticed it didn't do it whenever we did just now, we were going to make that the first few class periods be the first thing they open. And then after that, I'm going to make announcements the first thing they open, because I send a lot of announcements. I don't really use the email as much when I'm grouping, sending things to all my students. I send the announcement, then it archives it. Then you'll see, is there a mouse? Use the mouse? No. Do I use the pad?
We can use the mouse. Do you like the mouse?
I do, but does it have a thing in it? Oh yeah,
Yep.
That's sweet. Okay. So then you'll see the syllabus and the schedule. So this is where I've located those. In terms, I think, of understanding what the course is, I just used the template for the syllabus like everybody else did. One thing I did do on my syllabus is I laid out specifically what my expectations were in terms of the initial post and the reply post. So that's something I've learned over the years, that you kind of have to give them some guidance. So in terms of the class itself, it's really focused on our communication experiences in organizations, specifically as leaders or managers, hopefully future managers. So topics we talk about are organizational culture, providing performance feedback, communication crisis, communicating with technology, those types of things in the workplace. So my syllabus is pretty basic. I just use the template they gave us. But in terms of assessments, I give them the due dates of when I want the discussions to be posted, but then what I'm looking for in terms of the initial post and the peer reply. So things I've learned, you want to tell them with peer reply, don't ask a closed-ended question. I want an open-ended question, because that way it actually creates discussion. And the second thing I ask for is not a simple or effortless question like, why did this interest you? I want them to really think more about pushing each other in the discussion. Otherwise, the syllabus is pretty much just the syllabus. Do I go back here? Okay. All right. In terms of week one, or the weeks, I only have 2 sections under course content. The weekly content, and we did the backwards, so we'll open it, because that is frustrating, I know, for me even, having to scroll down. So we learned that in one of the sessions here. So all these will be shut down and they'll open as they go. So the most recent will be at the top. In week one, they've got quite a bit of stuff to do. And so what I did is, I didn't do this, Larissa set up the screenshot of my weekly schedule to remind them what's due that day or that week. And then for week one, I did a lot of little, I said, let's start here, a lot of little videos. So here's what our typical weeks will look like. And I did them all in VoiceThread. This is an assignment called MC in the News, Management Communication in the News. It's a assignment that runs every week. They do it one time. So I introduced them to that. And then one of their first assignments due on week one is their self-introduction. So I create a introduction to the self-introduction, like here's what this assignment is about. And then Larissa taught me how to do a thread box, which I really like, so I did it here. I tell them exactly what my criteria are for the self-introduction. I actually also do that in the VoiceThread video, so they get it twice, the things I want to hear. And then I give them the instructions on how to upload it. So whenever they start uploading, we'll start seeing all the videos in this one box, so when they can watch it, it's a lot easier for them. So Larissa taught me about that. I loved it for certain assignments, especially presentations or webcam assignments. So that's what they'll do. I try to be really good about putting due dates on under every particular assignment to remind them, even though it's on the schedule. So that's one thing you'll see. Other than that, each week is set up pretty much where I tell them to start by reading the chapter, then take their quiz over the chapter, and then watch the lecture, and then do the discussion. My lectures sometimes could literally be one slide talking for 2 minutes, because for me, the application comes in their discussions. That's how mine is set up. So I have an artifact every week that they watch, read, or listen to, and then I give them discussion questions that ask them to apply what they read to that artifact. So I'll show you one of those. So one thing is new for me, which I can reflect on, I can go ahead and get here, is this idea of steps. And Larissa recommended that, and I liked it a lot. For me, that's how I am. What do I do first? What do I do next? What do I do next? And so I tell them first take the practice quiz. I've created a practice one, and then take the real quiz. So every week they'll see steps. Sometimes I'll even have additional instructions. Click this link to watch this lecture. So the lectures are all in VoiceThread, and so are the discussions. So I'm just going to like fast forward through this, but I'll click on the discussion. Unfortunately, with VoiceThread, I couldn't set it up where they could just click on the artifact within it. So I always have to put the link to the artifact. So I try to make that real clear. And again, I put the due dates. So here's the first discussion. I'm going to click. I hate to hear myself. I'm going to click through it because I'll just show you. I wish I could just go to VoiceThread. So, okay, I don't want to hear myself. Okay, so on this one, let me pause it. This discussion focuses on the idea and applying the theory in the chapter that talks about to be effective managers, you really have to decide your communication based on the situation. The book talks about we have issues of, we have diversity in terms of age, we have diversity in terms of gender, we have diversity in terms of race, we have all these culture, all these different diversities. So what I try to do is always bring in something different. So as a manager, I should change my communication based on these different things if I want to be most effective. I can't just be the same with everybody. So I decided to bring in the idea of autism in the workplace because I heard a really good story about that. So my lecture is really not very long, but my lecture really kind of blended with my discussion. So I have a couple of slides where I talk about what is autism spectrum disorder, how many people have it. Here's a screenshot of the Mayo Clinic's definition. We go over that. What's the difference? Here's a handout, and I walk through it orally between someone that's gifted and someone that has Asperger's. We really focus on Asperger's, and there's actually a lot of similarities, so we talk about that. Then this is my artifact. So this slide is the first time they're going to be doing a discussion, so I tried to talk them through what I want. So I'll just play a little bit about what I did there. If they get it the first time, I think they can get it in the other weeks. So this is the lecture where we actually start getting to this part where we start getting to the discussion. So I'll just play just a couple minutes.
For each discussion board, I'm going to give you an artifact I want you to read, watch, or listen to, and that will serve as the basis of our discussion for that topic. This will provide us an opportunity to see how the topics we discuss are being played out in our current organizational experiences, and your questions will then link various elements of your reading for that topic to that particular artifact. Our artifact for this particular discussion is an NPR story that is called Autism Can Be an Asset in the Workplace, Employers and Workers Find. So I am going to include the link to this particular story on Blackboard in this particular week's folder. You are to first start by listening to this story. How you do that is once you click on the URL, it will take you to this page, and all you have to do is push this button. You can see this story is about 4.5 minutes long. If we listen to stories, they're usually pretty short like this. You can also see on this particular page that it offers a transcript. So I really encourage students to follow along as they listen, or as you answer the questions, I will ask you to use particular evidence from the story at times or examples to support your claims.
Okay, so once we do this once, I don't do this much detail every time, but that way I can show them what to do. And then after that, you go to the questions, and I work them through the questions, and I tell them how to post it. So that's pretty much how every week is set up. It's really no different. Some weeks we have one topic, some weeks we have two. Since it's a pretty short, it's a very condensed class, it's 7 weeks. So when you go to the weekly content, it's pretty much just set up like that. I have 2 major assignments in the class, so I created folders for each. The MC in the News is the one that they'll do every week. They go find a news article that applies the concept we've read about. They create a memo, and then they also do a little short 2-minute video, VoiceThread video about it, so other students can watch it, and they have to go watch they have to reply to at least 2 people throughout the class. So I had videos explaining it. I provided them a sample. We have a sign-up sheet that we did as a OneDrive document. So it's first come, first serve. So hopefully they aren't fighting for that. And then directions on how to upload. So pretty much that's how it's set up. I pushed them early on to check out this technology support link if they've never done VoiceThread before. So Larissa set that up for me. It has a couple tutorials. So I really am explicit about go watch the specific tutorial for this specific assignment if you don't know what to do. So that's how I would be. And I watched them. They're really nice and brief. Laura did a good job. Okay. And so that's pretty much how my course is set up. I pretty much got it all done because I have to teach this in the spring. So we'll see from the review what I have to change. But that's pretty much my highlights. In terms of reflection, I would say that using VoiceThread is going to be new for me. I've taught online before, but I've never used it. I hope it creates more immediacy for the class. So we'll see. It's kind of like it's an experiment. I have no idea. It could bomb and it could be great. I think I would like it more as a teacher, not reading all these discussion boards where my eyeballs go out and I feel like it's so flat. So I'm really excited to see how it works. Have you used it before?
Yes.
Okay.
And I have the same feeling.
Okay.
That the discussion boards and students like them because they can see everybody,
Right.
but they're flat.
Right.
And VoiceThread is more immediate.
Right.
The
The immediacy, I think, is going to be there more.
and it's got the bigger. It seems, even though it's flat and one domain, it seems more contextual.
Right. And I asked them on week 1, step 4 for week 1 or whatever was to upload your photo to VoiceThread so we can see each other because I think that will add immediacy too. So I think that's the biggest thing is that and the putting in steps I think is going to be really important. What are my final thoughts? Well, the strengths are that it forces you to do it. I mean, that's really what I heard from a colleague was it's a lot of work. I mean, I'm not going to, I think it's primarily a lot of work because I'm already teaching. You're teaching and now you're teaching, you're doing another class. So it is my first time this semester to teach this course. Thank goodness I'm teaching it because if I hadn't taught it, so I would not recommend for someone that has not taught the class. It'd be really hard to do it in a semester if you've not taught the class before. I don't know if you all think the same thing. But because that's creation from scratch and then to do all this in a semester I think would be hard. And I don't know how you figure out who does it or not. So it's a lot of time, I think, if you do it right. But I'm glad I did it because now this isn't my entire winter break. And I think that seeing examples in the meetings was helpful. I'd never thought about steps. I think having a peer, what do you call yourselves, a consultant?
Sure.
What's your
Friend,
a colleague, a whippersnapper that gets you. I think if I didn't have someone I had to report to, I'm not sure I would meet the deadlines. That's kind of how I am, right? I got to get the deadline. But it is a lot of work. And so I would tell someone, consider what's going on with you that semester. So it might be more work for me because it was my first semester here and doing that. And
that's one thing
But I
normally don't recommend just signing
right
because it's a lot.
It's a lot. Now, good thing I've taught before, so that's not the hard part. So, but a brand new faculty, they were already panicked in new faculty orientation. I would not recommend doing it to them. But I liked that we were able to meet one-on-one. I think that's really helpful. But it is quite a bit of work, and I just think that has to be. You don't want to scare people off, but you just got to communicate that. If it's a busy semester, don't do it. You know what I mean? I guess that would be my major comments.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you. I have a question.
Yeah.
You do when you highlighted what you do with the VoiceThread and the discussion.
Yeah.
That is weekly.
Yes.
And then you post in your syllabus what it is you want them to do, how you want them to reply, and so forth. Then how do you grade that? Do you grade each week?
Yeah, I grade each week. So each week I listen to everything that they post. The reply posts, I mean, those are fast. And I'm thinking my grading is going to be even faster with VoiceThread than it is by reading, to be honest, because I can listen to it. But I grade based on, I listen to every one. I do. I don't just, but that's just, I would do that in a class, class. I read everything they write. So that's just my teaching philosophy. So I grade based on this, did they answer the question? That's the first thing I say, all of it. Do they provide me evidence or examples connecting the textbook to the material for this like artifact of autism? So that's how I grade. I grade based on what I ask them to do on the syllabus. That's my.
Then are you going to do that mechanistically with Blackboard? Are you going to do that so that, isn't that what we can do now is we can put the assignment, the voice thread to assignment that then goes to Blackboard.
Yeah.
And you've got it right there in Blackboard,
Right.
which makes it really
Right.
easy.
So I set them up as an assignment. So then it has that bar on the side where I can give the grade and then give them, I will give them some feedback. As we get going, you can kind of give them more general feedback. I try to give them real strong feedback the first week.
Yeah.
And then after that, sometimes I'll have a phrase that I might use on multiple. It might be some cutting and pasting, like, good job this week, and then I'll add an individual thing. But I grade based on what I ask them to do. I feel like if I don't, then that's not fair to them. But I lay out what I ask them to do. So here are my expectations, and I've just learned that over the years. I taught graduate level before. This is not graduate level, but it's still, I think, it's upper division. It's not hard to say you need to make a clear connection to the material. So that's what I do. Otherwise, they're just like, well, I think this, and then I think this, and I think this. I want more depth. So does that, and I told them, I did a weekly discussion, introduction to weekly discussions video for Start Here, and I said, here are my expectations, and see the syllabus. That's how I grade. Did that answer your question on how I grade? I grade based on what I ask them to do.
I use the word substantive,
Okay,
that it needs to be more than just good job,
right,
that it needs to add to the discussion.
right. And that's same thing.
Yeah.
I just want it to be a whatever I said.
Right, and not just opinion.
Right.
Because when you're doing just the opinion, then they're really not showing you
Right.
what I'm learning as
Right.
far as higher education.
And then I do say, if you get a question, you have to answer the person. That's another where it gets dropped off sometimes. So if I ask Larissa a question, then I expect Larissa to answer, because otherwise there's no discussion. It's just cute question, answer, question, answer. Does that make sense? So I said, be watching for the weeks, and you need to maybe go back even after the deadline and answer the people. I expect that.
Did you do that with discussion board?
I did it all in discussion board so they could reply. So they'll reply to mine post, which was the discussion, what you saw. Then they'll reply to the person.
Right.
And then they could reply to the person that replied to them, because they could do it all in VoiceThread. I did my discussion boards in VoiceThread.
And then it's like threaded.
Yeah.
So you can see, before it wasn't threaded, so it's just kind of a big long list of people talking, but now there's the square of the original, and then there's circles that pop up.
Because they can hit a button there's the arrow that says direct reply
Yeah.
or whatever.
Okay. On
So,
voice thread.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because that seems like more in real time
Yeah.
with a real discussion
Right.
as opposed to discussion board, which was, just was long.
I hated it.
Online.
I hated it. And I can really just take a snapshot. Did they reply at least one time?
Yeah.
And I require them to reply to a different person every week, so I can quickly look. Yes, sir.
So you will create assignment with voice.
Right.
And then they each respond.
Right. So my
Question with the same question for everybody.
yes,
But they do the work and then.
and then they could pick anything from the thing for that they could just focus on question 3 or focus on question. They don't have to respond to everything they said. But I created the discussions as assignments in VoiceThread.
So you listen to each.
Yeah.
Voice thread coming in.
Yeah.
Based on the rubrics.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So based on the questions I asked them, that's my guide.
Good idea.
Well, somebody else did it, I thought. That one guy, we watched the example and he's like, here are my 5 questions. Remember that? I just did it off what he did because I thought it was a good idea.
The other one is listening voice thread faster than reading.
Yeah. That's why I did it.
Reading-
My eyes are going out by the time I get done.
Especially if you put it all in Threadbox.
Yeah.
You open up that and you've got everything.
And I didn't
else.
put my discussions in Threadbox. I put my self-introduction videos, because they have to be webcams. And then they have to do a presentation for their crisis communication case study. That's in Threadbox. Oh, and then their MC and the newses are in Threadbox because they only have to do it one time. So they could see them all at once. But I did those through Threadbox.
Now the thing is with Threadbox, you can't set it as an assignment through VoiceRun, so you have to do that as a create a column in Threadbox.
But that's no big deal to me.
But it's just for those three.
Yeah, just I mean, I do that all the time
Yeah,
anyway
that's
in my
no big deal.
CDIDs.
So what if any students not equipped with a computer and camera?
Well, that was on my syllabus as minimum requirements. So if they aren't, then they either need to get it or I guess they're going to have to drop because, and I talk about that early on in the introduction to the course, that they will be required to have webcam actually week 1. So it's on my syllabus as the minimum technology requirements. We had that section. So I said webcam microphone.
Is your course online only? Or this will be online?
This will be online only.
So when they register for it, they know that it's going to be online. It's not going to be a hybrid.
Yeah, right, because it has a different number. So the way our college is doing it is fall it's seated, spring it's online. And spring online is mainly the BPS students. Okay, so now is that what it's called?
Yeah, business professional studies. It's mostly non-traditional students who are working full-time.
Yeah.
And going on a fast track to get it.
Yeah, so in the spring that will be mainly who those students are, and then fall it's like I'm teaching it now traditional students.
That would be interesting to see. That would be a research study.
Yeah, so yeah,
To see what the difference
Yeah.
is because you actually are talking about
well,
two different
populations, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It was totally 2 different
Yeah,
populations. So we'll see. I mean, you never know. We're all just trying it. It may be a disaster, but at least I'll learn from it.